Hello, everyone. Yes, it's Mega Champ once again with another Full Thoughts video. And oh boy, look what I'm finally going to talk about in a Full Thoughts video. At long last. God, my backlog is horrible. But, oh well, I guess. It is what it is. Whatever saying you want to use. If you haven't already noticed by now, you may be noticing a bit of different or better, as I just said that in air quotes, uh, audio quality or mic quality. And that's because I finally invested in a new microphone. The one that I was using before for these videos I've been using really most of my life. And all of a sudden, I started having weird issues with it with OBS, where it would give me really weird, loud static. And it wasn't doing this before previously, so I have no idea what the issue or problem is. But, it is what it is, I guess. I did some testing with this, and it does kind of sound better. I mean, it's not perfect, but considering the fact that I'm only doing this for fun, who really cares? Well, I don't care. It works for what I need it for, so that's really all that matters. Yay. I don't know. It is a little sad, I guess, if you want to use that word, because, my old microphone is now being put to rest, and I guess I'm the sentimental type, but whatever. That's literally not the point of this video. I just thought I should let you know in case you notice a difference in audio and or microphone quality. With that out of the way, it is finally time for me to give my full thoughts and do my full thoughts video for the game that won my most anticipated game that I will actually play last year. And that game is, of course, Pokemon Legends Arceus for the Nintendo Switch. Oh boy, I'm sure the Pokemon fans are totally looking forward to this one. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, as always, before I start getting into these sorts of things, please keep in mind that everything that I'm about to say is my opinion and my opinion alone. It's just my own personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences and opinions on this game. And everyone's thoughts, feelings, experiences, and opinions are going to be different at the end of the day. You can have your opinion, everyone can have their opinion, which means I'm allowed to have my opinion. So, just keep that in mind. This is just my personal feelings, thoughts, experiences, and opinion on this game. With that out of the way, also as normal, we will be briefly going through the story of the game, the characters of the game, the world of the game, where the game takes place, the graphics, and the gameplay. As always, just like when I did my full thoughts on Brilliant Diamond, there's not really a whole lot to say on these subjects. I mean, I say that, but my videos keep being at least around 30 minutes long every time, but there really isn't a lot to say on any of this, because it's a Pokemon game. And as I have also said previously several times, Pokemon is not exactly a franchise where you're going to find an unbelievably good story. There are exceptions, Sun and Moon, but for the most part, you're not really going to get a good story in a Pokemon game. Some of them are better than others, obviously, but there's not really much of that, and the same can be said about characters and character development, because really the only important characters in a Pokemon game is the protagonist, the rival, and whoever the villain and or villains are. That's literally it, and that's literally only 3 that I just said, as I counted with my right hand there that you did not see. So there's not a lot of character development. Story is going to be hit or miss. Graphics is going to vary greatly, and you're going to get a mixed variety of whiny opinions. I mean, opinions. Uh-oh, I'm shooting already. Anyway, you get the point. The point of a Pokemon game, as I have stated several times, is mostly gameplay. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been, and that's probably all it ever will be. I'm sorry that you don't like hearing the truth. Okay, I'd better stop shooting. Anyway, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Pokemon has never been a huge story-related game, and it's never been a huge character development game, or anything for that matter. Pokemon games are mostly about gameplay and catching the Pokemon and battling the Pokemon with other trainers and so on and so forth. That's all Pokemon has mostly been. I mean, what did you expect me to say? I'm not going to say anything different than I've already stated in the past. So just as a pre-warning there, and as always, I will try my best to not give too many spoilers if you haven't already played this game for yourself. Kind of hard to not get spoiled with Pokemon games. It literally is hard. Practically impossible, but it didn't really detract or ruin my experience, so whatever. Anyway, let's get started before I start rambling and shooting more. As I take a quick water break. So, we're going to start on the story of the game. You want to know what the story of the game is? You get isekai'd, or isekai'd, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm going to pronounce it isekai, but pronounce it however you want. You get isekai'd. You think I'm joking? Boy, I wish I was joking. You get isekai'd. By Arceus, because of course you do. You get sent back in time. I guess technically you could argue that's time travel, but you could also argue that it's an isekai. Why is there an isekai push? Nobody has ever explained why there's been a huge isekai push. It's like every other anime is a goddamn isekai. Not the point. I'm getting off topic and off subject. The story is an isekai. Arceus sends you back in time. Why? God, if I know, he never sends you back. Go die, Arceus. Anyway, I mean, there is some things that happen near the end of the game that's hinted at what actually happens, although it still seems pretty likely that Arceus is the one who did it because somehow he knew what was going to happen has happened, and then, like the jerk-ass god that he is, he sits on his ass and does nothing. But what else can we expect from gods and JRPGs? Most of the time you fight them as the final boss. What else is new? There's not much else to say on the story of the game. There are noble Pokemon, quote-unquote, that go into a frenzy, quote-unquote, from mysterious lightning in the sky, quote-unquote, from the space-time rift that you fall out of, and you have to go calm them all. That's literally the entire story. I'm not saying it's a bad story. I'm also not saying it's a good story. But that's basically the story, because this game is mostly an action game, which we will get into later, if you haven't already seen the trailers and some gameplay from it. there's nothing else to really say about the story. There is one thing related to the story that I do need to mention, but it more belongs in the characters area, so we'll get into that in a bit. I thought the story was fine. Like I said, you're not going to get an absolutely amazing story in a Pokemon game. I'm sorry, I'm just saying. But the story is fine, and it is what it is. I didn't mind it. I didn't hate it. It wasn't the best story ever. It had its moments, particularly around near the end. But the story is fine. I mean, what else would you expect from an isekai or a time travel story? So, I enjoyed the story for what it was. That's about all I can say. So for me personally, the story was fine. I enjoyed it for what it was. There's your too long didn't watch or too long didn't read version. The characters of the game. Pokemon is not about characters either. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they do get good character development. Again, Sun and Moon. I'm gonna give that generation its props when it needs it, even though I still consider that generation the worst Pokemon generation of all time thus far. But examples and props need to be given when needed, and this is one of those times. Characters aren't really all that important in Pokemon games. Sometimes there are good characters and good character development, but it's not really all about the characters. I'm sorry, it's just not. The only important characters in a Pokemon game is the character you play as, the protagonist, your rival, sometimes gym leaders, and then whoever the villain and or villains are. That's it. I'm sorry. I'm just saying how I feel, okay? This is just how I personally feel, but Pokemon games have never been about the characters and character development. That's just how it's always been from my experience and from literally everything that I have seen, and I've been playing since Red and Blue. So there you go. I mean, the characters are fine. I mean, the professor is a good professor for I mean, the professor has actually more of a role in this particular game as opposed in other games where they sit in their lab doing nothing. I'm just saying. But so the professor is a good character, the leader of the Galaxy Expedition team that you join. Ha 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 ha. That character is fine and has some and shows that she really cares. Silene, that's who I'm talking about the protagonist and everything that's going on. I never said that there weren't good characters. There are. There just aren't a lot of good characters as opposed to other games and other franchises because the Pokemon franchise has never been about the characters, I'm sorry, and character development. But what I will say about this particular Pokemon game, and this is kind of what I mentioned previously in the story part, segment, whatever. The protagonist of this game, of the Pokemon Legends Arceus, the player that you play as, that you name and all that stuff, I have to be completely and brutally honest with you here. The protagonist of Legends Arceus probably has the best, if not the best, character development of any protagonist in any Pokemon game potentially ever. I'm sorry, I'm just saying how I feel and what my experience and thought and feeling is. That's just how I personally feel, okay? Because I do not remember the last time character development was actually given to the protagonist of a Pokemon game. Because at some point, because of course this would happen, and where's Edgeworth with his logic chess when you need him? Because at one point, the protagonist is pretty much blamed for everything. Yes, that's a spoiler, but forgive me here, give me some leeway here. I have to kind of describe this, so apologies, but the character is blamed for everything that's going on at one point, and they're pretty much kicked out. During that segment is probably the best character development I've ever seen for the protagonist in a Pokemon game. Just how I feel. Just my personal experience. I do not remember the last time the protagonist of a Pokemon game had this amount of character development, or this amount of depth of character development, or character development at all for that matter. It was really good. A little contradictory in him because a Pokemon approaches him that literally doesn't let you get within 5 feet before they start trying to literally kill you. So a little bit contradictory, but probably the best character development for a protagonist in any Pokemon game in recent memory, potentially ever. So yeah, not much else to say about the characters. I could mention a cheating bastard, but that would be a spoiler, and I'd have to say his name and talk about that, but yeah. The world of the game. It's in Hisui. It's pretty much a past version of Sinnoh. What are you waiting for? There's nothing else for me to say. Yes, there are regional variants. Hisuian Growlithe and Arcanine, Hisuian Zorora and Zoroark, Hisuian Lilligant, Hisuian Avalugg, and the Hisuian final evolutions of the starters, Typhlosion, Samurott, and it's blanking on me right now. The Rowlet evolution. I'm sorry. I can't think of it right now. But Rowlet, Dartrix, and whatever his final evolution is. So those are the Hisuian variants. Oh god, this is going to bother me now. Well, I'm sorry that I can't think of it right now. I'm not the only Pokemon fan who can't think of a Pokemon name when it calls for it. Okay, screw it. I am so dumb. Yes, I am. I'm really dumb. Decidueye. Well, hey, at least I didn't sit here not being able to say it and seeming like an idiot. There you go, Decidueye. So Hisuian, Samurott, Typhlosion, and Decidueye. There are regional variants, or I guess you could say past versions of Pokemon before those went extinct, I guess. RIP. And, they became what they are today. I'm not really going to say which one I think looks the best. It has been years, probably even decades at this point, since I used Cyndaquil. And Typhlosion, in case I haven't mentioned this before, Typhlosion is my absolute number one favorite Pokemon. So what did you expect me to choose? Yes, it's part ghost type now, which is a little worrisome with most of the ghost types liking to steal souls. But that was the one that I chose. And despite all my worries and everything that most people were worried about before the game came out, I think Hisuian Typhlosion is really good and I really liked it. Got me out of a lot of jams. Let's just leave it at that. Another thing about the world of this game, well, I guess this is either world or story, either one. This game is rated E for everyone. And here's the thing. it might be rated E for everyone, but it has the I was trying to see if the Metacritic had the rating, but whatever. I'm pretty sure it's rated E for everyone. The point is, it might be rated E for everyone, but that's actually unbelievably deceptive. And the reason for that is because this Pokemon game is probably the darkest Pokemon game I've ever played that is an official Pokemon game, not created by fans or a ROM hack or any of that other stuff. Of the official Pokemon games since Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness, which was years ago at this point, but since those games, this is probably the darkest official Pokemon game I've ever played. And the reason for that is there are death references. That's going pretty far for a Pokemon game whose core demographic is children from the age of 5, maybe 6, 7, or 8 to maybe 13 to 16. Whatever demographic you want to claim is the Pokemon demographic. More towards the child demographic, basically. It has the most death references I think I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. And I'm not even joking. And that is great. Love it, love it, love it. Don't die out there. You better complete this mission. That's only some of it. Basculegion, the evolution of Basculin in this game, was created from the spirits of Basculin. My God, man, my God. If you're hit by too many Pokemon attacks, you'll black out, quote unquote. You die. Ursaring literally tries to fold you. Hopefully you get the point. I love it. I absolutely love it. Is death references warranted in most Pokemon games? No. Don't know where that idea came from. Each game is going to be different. In a game like this that takes place in the past with old Pokeballs where Pokemon were considered terrifying creatures, which is also referenced multiple times, it makes sense. I'm sorry, it makes sense. You challenge a Pokemon, they're gonna attack you and you're gonna die. I'm just saying. Great. Love it, love it, love it. It shocked me. And I'm not even kidding. It shocked me with how many death references there were in this game. I love it. I hope that becomes a theme for Legends. I'm not saying it will always be a theme. It's possible we'll get a Legends game that takes place in the future, though that's a contradiction in its own right because Legends means it's a legend, which means it's in the past. A little bit of a contradiction there, but I'm just saying. But it makes sense. Hopefully that kind of theme will continue. I loved it. I loved all of that. It's unbelievable how much that was in that game, considering what the core demographic of Pokemon is. So yeah. Love it, love it, love it. Now we're going to get into the stuff that Pokemon fans really love me to get into. Oh goody. Bet you're just oh so looking forward to this. The graphics of the game. Oh boy. Oh boy. I still do not understand what the whiny Pokemon fan base is about when it comes to... I don't understand why everyone is obsessed with graphics in a Pokemon game. I'm sorry, I just don't. And clearly I'm never going to understand. That's just something I'm going to have to accept. I don't know why people who call themselves Pokemon fans, in air quotes, harp on and on and on and on to no end about graphics. Are the graphics good at this game? No. They're not horrible. They're better than the graphics in Brilliant Diamond, although that's an extremely low bar. Look, I don't really care. This is just me, okay? I don't know how many times I have to shove that down your throat. I don't care. The art style and the graphics fit what they were trying to present. That's all that matters. I'm sorry. That's all that matters. I thought the graphics were fine. I'm not going to sit here and act like there weren't frame drops. But you want to know when the frame drops happened? It's when the Pokemon were way out in the distance. You can't make 30 frames for shit that far. I'm sorry. People just don't seem to understand how graphics work. But, you know, whatever. HD 2D ain't the answer either. But, you know, what do I know? I'm just someone who has business and consumer sense. Imagine that. Oops, I did a shoot again. Point is, the graphics are fine, and they work for what they're trying to present. To me, that's all that matters. I'm sorry. If that's literally only me, then so be it. Think whatever you want. Make whatever arguments you want. It's not going to change how I feel. The graphics were fine. Gameplay, which is the most important thing of a Pokemon game. Extremely fun. Extremely addicting. I couldn't stop at first. This game is addicting. Not only that, this is the very first Pokemon game I have ever played that I actually spent time catching lots and lots and lots of Pokemon. I understand it's a part of the story and how you get to Arceus at the end. And I'm not going to pretend like that's not an issue here. It clearly is. It clearly is. A literal part and story and point of the game is to catch a lot of Pokemon, get their research levels as high as you can get, which is level 10, and fill out the first Hisuian Pokedex. I understand that. It changes nothing. It changes nothing. This is the very first Pokemon game I have literally played where I caught a shit ton of Pokemon. I'm sorry. It was unbelievably addicting. Unbelievably addicting. And I couldn't stop. Love it. Love it. Love it. I love it. Love it. Okay? Just me. How many times do I have to say that? Who knows? It's just me. I love it. I loved it. Because it's an action game, you have to dodge Pokemon attacks. What is this, Dark Souls? No, it's an action game, but you get the point. It did get a little Dark Souls-like at times, though. So here's your negative. There were a couple of boss fights and a couple of situations that were really frustrating for me. And that's saying something considering most of the games that I play, or at least a pretty good majority of them, are action games. And this is coming from someone who plays action games and seems to, overall, maybe, questionable, I guess, be better at action games than turn-based games, even though I did extremely well in Persona 5, but did extremely terribly in the Trails games, or at least the Cold Steel ones, but hopefully you get the point. Even for me, there were some very frustrating moments. The Arcanine and Avalugg boss battle come into mind in particular. The Arcanine one was kind of on me. I kind of screwed up severely. But that Avalugg battle was just ridiculous. I'm sorry. It just was. And don't get me started on those goddamn genies. My God. My God. Fix that shit. Seriously. They move way too goddamn fast. I'm sorry. And goddamn that Arceus fight. I lost count of how many attempts it took me after 5. It wasn't 10. I think it was 7 to 8, but you get the point. There are definitely Dark Souls-like moments in this game, and this came out before Elden Ring, which I also never played and never will, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So yes, there were very frustrating moments. But it didn't really ruin my overall experience. There's also a crafting system in this game where you can craft, potions and revives and Pokeballs, that stuff. And normally I don't really like crafting systems, at least not in the sense when the entire goddamn game seems to revolve around the crafting system. That wasn't the case in this game. It was practically a minuscule part of it. It was about as minuscule as the crafting system in Tales of Arise, which I did like, by the way, if you recall that 1-hour video I did, even though I mostly hated that game. I liked the weapon crafting in that game, and I liked the crafting in this game, because it didn't throw it in your face constantly and seemingly revolve around it. So even though crafting systems are kind of hit or miss for me, I liked the crafting system in this game. Don't have a heart attack. I liked the crafting system in Tales of Arise, as long as it's minuscule and not in your face seemingly every 5 seconds, and the entire game seemingly revolves around the goddamn crafting system, that's fine. And that's what happened in this game. Very minuscule. I liked it. I'm sorry. They did change the battle system slightly as well, where it was turn-based, like Pokemon, but also like Final Fantasy, where sometimes a Pokemon would act twice before you could act, and sometimes you could achieve that through the styles, the agile style and the strong style, although if you used strong style you would tend to go slower and potentially allow the opponent Pokemon to move twice, but you get the point. They changed that up too. Great, love that. Bring back something similar for ZA. Whether they do or not, who knows, but point I'm trying to make here is a lot of the gameplay mechanics I loved and were just absolutely great, and it was unbelievably addicting. Most of this game revolves around the gameplay. Imagine that. I'm not going to pretend like the gameplay loop may not become tedious and the same thing over and over for some people, that's a very valid criticism. I'm not going to act like that's not a valid criticism. Didn't bother me in the slightest. I'm sorry. Sorry. I don't care. Sorry. Just me. Just me. So yeah. Great, great, great. Loved the hell out of it. Frustrating at moments, yes. But it's the perseverance that gets you through. Did for me. Doesn't change the ridiculousness of some certain situations and boss battles. Yes, there are boss battles, like I said. And that's another great addition. Give me more of that. Point is, I love the hell out of the gameplay. Sorry, just me. So there you go. Nothing else to really say. At least nothing I can think of off the top of my head. If you want to know, like, what my team was, quote unquote, you don't really have a set team in this game because of how much Pokemon you have to catch. Hisuian Typhlosion was there the entire time. Cyndaquil, Quilava, Hisuian Typhlosion. If I had to say what I would consider my team, it was 3, and then the other 3 would swap out a lot. So it was mainly 3. It was Hisuian Typhlosion, Hisuian Electrode Respect Gained, and Hisuian Braviary. Braviary Respect Gained. That was my main 3, and the other 3 would swap constantly. There's nothing else to say about my team. I should probably try to use Braviary full time. I really liked using it in Legends Arceus, so we'll see what happens in that regard. Somehow I doubt Pokemon Scarlet will let me use it that quickly, but not Hisuian Braviary, any Braviary, but you get the point. So yeah, that was my main 3, and the other 3 were just swapped out constantly, so I can't really say what the other 3 were, because there really wasn't 3 more. So there's my team. Hisuian Typhlosion pretty much being the main one throughout the entire game. That's pretty much it. I don't really know what else to say. I'm sorry I blanked on Decidueye. Trust me, I'm not the first Pokemon fan who blanks on a Pokemon name. That was the story of the game, the characters of the game, the world of the game, where the game takes place, the graphics, and the gameplay. Showed it to you briefly. Here it is with more time, unless you paused it. Here's your Metacritic score that everyone is idiotically obsessed with. Here's your Metacritic score. Boy, I'm just shoot-centric today. Or right now. So yeah, as you can see, of the most recent Pokemon games, and unfortunately this does include Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, this is the best rated Pokemon game in recent years. Or at least since, well, actually, I don't know what the score was for Pokemon Sword. I'm not going to look it up. But let's just say it's the best rated Pokemon game in the last couple of years and leave it at that. I generally agree with these scores. I don't care. As far as what my personal score would be, yeah, I would probably say my personal score is like an 8.5-ish to maybe an 8.8, but I'd probably say it's more around 8.5, so it's a little higher than both of these scores. That would be my personal score. Here's the thing, though. Yes, I'm about to say something negative again. Don't have a heart attack. I cannot sit here and say to you, this is the best Pokemon game ever made. I've seen that thrown around a lot, and I mean a lot, by a lot of people. And everyone's opinion is going to be different at the end of the day. What a concept. But I can't sit here and say to you, this is the best Pokemon game I've ever played. It's probably the most fun, and the one and potentially only Pokemon game where I actually taught a crap ton of Pokemon, unless Legend ZA is similar. But I can't sit here and say that it's the best Pokemon game ever made. What's the best Pokemon game ever made then, Mega? I don't know. I can't really say what game was the best Pokemon game ever made, because I wasn't a very critical reviewer 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. I'm sorry. The point is, I can't sit here and say this is the best Pokemon game ever made. I can't. I'm sorry. Definitely the best Pokemon game I've played in quite some time. Probably even better than Sword and Shield, which I had an extreme amount of fun in. Give me a break, it's my opinion. But I can't say it's the best Pokemon game of all time. Sorry. I just can't. It's really good and really fun and really addicting. But I can't say it's the best Pokemon game ever made. But that's just me. That's just me. Considering the amount of games that I've played thus far this year, none of them have been particularly good or stood out all that much. This one probably is the game that has stood out the most thus far. Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Boy, I'll really make people angry at the end of the year if that happens. But there are other games coming up that could potentially prevent that from happening. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Klonoa Fantasy Reverie, Digimon Survive, maybe. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, if I actually get to it. Somehow I doubt that last one. But I'm just saying. Just don't be surprised. It's just my personal list. This is why I always say to make your own list. Alright, that's all I got. Nothing else to really say. I enjoyed the hell out of this game. Some of the stuff that some people have said they had issues with, I did not have issues with in the slightest. A little ridiculous at times, a little too frustrating at times. Some of that may be on me, and I'm going to admit that. It might be on me, okay? Just assume it's on me. But I'm just saying what my personal experience was. And yours is obviously going to be different. And I would like to once again thank the SarahB.net Discord for providing me some help when I needed it. So thank you to SarahB.net Discord. They will never watch this, but I'll feel like a jerk if I don't say that. So there you go. There's your thank you. Yeah, great game. Considering what it's up against in terms of the other games that I've played, it's the one that stood out the most. Oh boy, am I going to make people angry at the end of the year. Then again, maybe not. We'll see. The next game is to kill chaos. I mean, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy. It's Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Yes, this is a Dark Souls game. I'm playing it on easy. Give me a break. I don't care. If you have a problem with me playing this game on easy, cry me a river. I am not going to struggle in this game. I could not finish the very first demo on normal. I couldn't. I literally couldn't. I'm playing it on easy. I will play this game the way I want to play it. You can play it on hard. I'm going to play it on easy. Cry me a river. So that means I'm probably not going to stream this game either, because I don't want a message every 5 seconds telling me to stop playing on easy and to get good. How about you play it your way and I'll play it my way? Okay, thanks. Cry me a river. Boy, I'm just shooting all over the place. Point is, I'm going to play this game the way I want to, and I'll enjoy it the way I want to, okay? Let's just leave it at that. But this is my next game. Apparently, it's very meme-ish, memey, whatever word you want to use. Has a lot of memes, basically. Obviously, I just said one, Kill Chaos, but apparently there's a lot. Apparently, I've heard from one person it's amusing. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess we're going to find out. Well, I'm going to find out. I mean, it can be so funny and so bad that it makes it good. That's a thing that exists. We'll see. Point is, this is my next game. I will be playing it on easy. I will ignore all idiotic messages and comments sent my way telling me to not play it on easy. And I'll let you know when I finish it. I'm going to tell you right now, I learned my lesson from Tales of Arise. I don't think I'm going to play the DLC of this game, especially because it's a Dark Souls game. Or Dark Souls-like game. So I learned my lesson. I probably won't play the DLC. I'll probably just play the main game and that's it. So that's all you're going to get is just a full thoughts of the main game and not the DLC. Sorry. I'm not going to put myself through that shit again. I can tell you that right now. If I'm not enjoying the game, I'm not going to play DLC anymore. That's my new rule after that Tales of Arise situation. So I'm not saying I won't enjoy this game, especially since I'll be playing it on easy. But when you combine that with the fact that it's a Dark Souls-like game, and I don't really like Dark Souls-like game, I don't have a lot of incentive to play the DLC, so expect a full thoughts on just the main game is the message here. Alright, that's all I got for you. It's very dead right now for gaming. It probably won't start getting active again until September, as per normal. I mean, there are a lot of people seemingly suggesting that Kingdom Hearts 4 might be at D23, but they also said the same thing about it being at Summer Games Fest, and look how that went. All I'm saying is don't get your hopes up. So it's very dead right now. Very, very dead. But it gives people an opportunity to get through their backlog, like me, especially when there's not really a lot of games to look forward to for the rest of the year, outside of Astrobot and Metaphor, maybe. So, yeah. Except that cat genocide demo game I'm going to play in August. Oh boy, I'm going to get so many frustrations out. What? Alright, this is Mega Champ. That's all I got for you. Nothing else to say. This is Mega Champ saying next time I'll be providing you with more unlimited guidance. And just as a final reiteration, this is just my opinion, okay? Just my opinion. Just me. Feel however you want. Have whatever opinion that you want. Just don't give your mental 5-year-old whiny bullshit to me about the way I feel. Okay? Thanks. I swear. Okay. Bye.